Shukrie Suleymanova, May 18, 1944. In the morning at 6 o'clock, 2 soldiers came. They woke us up. Grandma went out and opened the door. They said, "Pack up and go. You are being evicted from Crimea." And then I asked, "Just us?" "No, we are going to evict all Crimean Tatars. And where, we don't know." And we were taken out without anything. We couldn't take any clothes, except ones we were wearing. We didn't take anything. We came out and saw cars, Studebakers, in the middle of the village. They gathered all people in one place. There were no young people, mostly old people. Children under 15 or 16 and old people. They loaded us into a car and brought to Cuisine district. There was a railway. They brought us to the station. There were wagons in which sheep and cattle were transported, freight cars. We were loaded there. There were soldiers, too. There were 2 soldiers standing in each door. We were loaded into the wagons. And there was no room to sit or lie down. We all sat down in the wagon, that's it. That's how we left Crimea on May 18th and came to Uzbekistan on June 4th, Bokhara region, Navoy district, Crimean Station, Narpai State Farm, 4th Department. On June 4th, we were brought to Narpai Cotton Farm, 4th Department. That's where we were brought and immediately put into a large room. The walls are 4 meters high and the towers are standing. It turned out that the jailers lived there. It was a prison. These jailers were taken to the army for the war, and we were brought there. We came in there, big mess in the yard, big barracks. 20 families were settled in each barrack. This meter is ours, this meter is someone else's. Anyway, there are 20 families in one room. At the time, I was 17 years old. I ran out. I took over the very corner. My grandmother was already 78 years old. That's the corner I took and put her there. That's how we got settled. And then they started checking us out. How old are you? Did you go to school? I just graduated in 1941, 7th grade. I said, I have a 7th grade education. Here, says the head of the Narpai State Farm, we need a secretary. Our secretary, he said, was a Polish woman. The Poles were given a free pass. They're on their way home. She's going home. We can put you in her place. And she had an apartment for that job. We'll give you this apartment, he said. Oh, I said, that's great. And so they did a week later. She left. I settled in her room and worked as a secretary in the office under the command of the commandant. We couldn't go anywhere. We could only move around this office. We just couldn't walk here and there. We were not allowed. I was there with my grandmother. Grandma had 2 sons in the war. I was with my grandmother, and Grandma's 2nd son's wife was with us. She became seriously ill with dysentery. She was taken to the 5th department. There was a hospital. She was lying there. At that time, my grandmother had already died. My sister-in-law is in the hospital, and my grandmother is dead. And here's the 3rd day. There's nowhere to bury my grandmother. There were no young men to bury, only old people. There's a big mountain, they take bodies to this mountain, and there's jackals take everything away. That's how it was. And I went to the hospital. I didn't tell my brother's wife that her mother-in-law was gone. She was fine, started walking. We were sitting, talking, and crying for a long time. Then I came back home. Few days later, I went back to hospital to see her again. And my sister-in-law was already dead. She walked me. And the 3rd day I went there, I was told she was dead. I don't know where those who died in the hospital were taken. Then I started working in an office. My mother was looking for me through the commandant's office. My mother was in Kashkadarya region. Her commandant found our exact address, Bokhara region, Narpai State Farm. He called our chairman Gvozdez. He was a military man. There is a girl. Her parents are looking for her. Then he called me. I have a question. Here's the news. Do you have anyone? This is my mom, my dad, I said. The place of birth in Zankoy district. This is them. They found you, he said. If you know them, we'll send you to your parents. And they put me on the train through the commandant's office, or rather through the police. They sent me to Kashkadarya region. And there my dad was waiting for me. We lived in Uzbekistan for many years. In 1956, when we obtained permission to live in Crimea, we came here in 1956, and we were not allowed to live here. We arrived, but we were not allowed. You cannot live in Crimea. Wherever you come from, go there. They wouldn't let us in Simferopol station. The Crimean Tatars cannot live in Crimea. Wherever you come from, go there, people said. And we spent 2 weeks at the station, at the train station. Men were running around trying to find a way to stay, but they couldn't. Since it is impossible, we had to go back home. We returned to Uzbekistan. Then in 1988, yes, I came here? Yes. We took a vacation, came to Crimea, then went back, and then moved away for good. We couldn't receive a residence permit. We bought a house, then we went to check in. No, to register it, we were told, you can't live here. Get the house back and go back. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. I came to my homeland to die. I have all my ancestors here, and this is my land. If it's my fault, shoot me. I'm ready. Even in my own house. I'm not giving the house back. It's been 2 years since we got permanent residence permit. For 2 years, I insisted on my rights. I wasn't shot, but tortured. Every month, they called me, day after day. And home prices were rising. The one we bought for 30,000 raised the price, 32, 34, 35,000. That's how they raised it. In the end, we were registered on December 18th. Then I went back home to pack up and move here to this house. Here we came later. The house we bought at the time, I live in this house, and it was a similar house. We demolished it and built this one, now my son lives here. For me, Crimea is my soul, Crimea is my land, Crimea is my home. I'm not going anywhere from Crimea. When I've lived there for 40 years, I always dreamed of my Crimea, my house. Only Crimea, only Crimea. And I came to live in Crimea, and to die in Crimea, and I will die in Crimea. Even if they shoot me now, I don't care. I said that 20 years ago, and now I do. I'm not going anywhere. This is my land, this is my soul. My Crimea. Crimea is ours. Our children, grandchildren should live in their homeland. Crimea is ours. That's right. Crimea is my home. I will never forget Crimea. And when the water flows down the river, I will hear your voice.
Kırım'ın tuğanda yürüdüm, hiç unutmam Kırım'ını. Deryalardan sular da gelse, eşiterim sesini.